welcome in, guys. We're going to be talking about the Lakers, talking about some rumors. There's normally a podcast that we've been trying to sort out when that's going to be. I missed a ton of them because I was in France for 2 weeks. I know that you guys did one right after the season ended, and I didn't even want to go. Like I was like, I can't talk about this team. Nashville Stars from 2K. What's the Nashville Stars from 2K? I'm not
The
familiar.
generate a 2K team and like my career, expansion team.
Oh, so that's like okay. I guess that's just okay. So that's just to help like give people an idea if they want to add a team.
Yeah,
Like it's a default expansion team. Okay,
yeah.
nice. Nah, I'm not a fan of the Nashville Stars. They are Baltimore Barons. I don't like that. That one's a little weird. Anyway, welcome into those who are here. I'm sure we'll be able to get this recorded and have some good content for this summer. We're going to talk a lot about the Lakers this summer, of course. This is still the Lakers room. I know it's been different recently for you all. It probably sucks seeing like V7 and Kaden instead of like me, Allan, Earl, Kaden, who else? Mark, Mal, all the good people are gone a lot of the time, but
I think I'll say it was like to be fair, the Western Conference final stinks. That those games are unwatchable.
yeah,
But
yeah,
definitely, I think for the Knicks Pacers games, I think you'll normally see most of us. Maybe if there's like a game 7, game 6, I think
yeah.
we'll definitely pop up there because that series is really good right now. But yeah, Western
I hope
Conference,
so. Yeah.
I will be no showing that.
Yeah, no, I mean, now that I'm back, I want to, but I just don't know. After the Lakers get out, it's always a little bit weird. I think you would agree, but the playoffs have been amazing on that note. Like this 2025 NBA playoffs, this is one of the best ones I can remember. And that's with the Lakers getting eliminated first round. Obviously, would prefer if we were still in it. I would have missed the whole second round Lakers Warriors if I was, with the trip I had to take for work. So that's good that I didn't miss anything. But these playoffs have been insane from like insane buzzer beaters to some of these dunks we're seeing to these players, these young players emerging and kind of making it their league. It has been really cool to follow along with. Um, but Luka, like now that we have Luka, it's kind of like, okay, we know LeBron's done. We know Steph's done in the sense of like running the league, right? KD's out. Giannis is even out. Jokic got out in the second round. Who else? Harden, Kawhi, first round, all that. And then you see the Shea, the Ant of the world, those types of guys, Halliburton, definitely. Some of these younger guys like taking over the league. And you have to think like Luka is in that conversation, if not ahead of most of them. And I've watched Ant play his whole career, including a little high school. Me being a Georgia guy, especially college freshman year, he's worse than Luka. Everyone knows that. That's not crazy to say. So I really hope we can get some of these Luka runs like these other young guys are doing is my point. And also like a Luka MVP because a Shea MVP makes me think of like Luka should really have an MVP or should, have it next year. He's right there. But yeah, of course, a lot going on with the Lakers. Also, nothing going on. You never know what's real this time of year. I pulled up our Twitter to talk about a few of the reports going on. I know, Allan, you've always been really smart with the NBA draft. Would love to talk about that. Danny Wolf is a guy that we mentioned who, he went to my college. I didn't get to see him there. I just missed him by 1 year. Um, but yeah, we'll get into all that with the draft. One thing that did come up this morning, sorry, it's trying to get me to promote it on Playoff LAL. The Lakers could possibly emerge. How do you get this thing out of the way? I don't want to promote the tweet. Don't promote. Okay, whatever. But you get the point. We've emerged as a suitor for Warriors guard DeAnthony Melton. Allan, how do you feel about all of that?
I'm really high on D'Anthony Melton. I think that we can arguably he's like an upgraded Shake Milton. per se, which just sort of sounds like a bad thing, but he's a very high volume scorer, can carry his own shot, decent defender. I don't think he would have been locked down even if he stayed with that Warriors team. But I think definitely if you need a scoring option, we know Gabe Vincent is very consistent. I think that D'Anthony Melton is the opposite of Gabe Vincent scoring wise, and he would be beneficial. Like you mentioned, at least in a reply, he's injury prone, but I think that he's a player that could be useful on a veteran minimum contract.
Yeah, like of course for a vet min, it doesn't sound too bad. My initial thought, I've known him for years. I've followed his game. I really like his game because he plays defense. Not a lot of these really cheap guards, I guess, play defense. And I saw this year at the start of the year, he was doing great things for the Warriors. Like they loved him. But that injury, man, I don't know. It's hard to say like let's go get this guy and he was just out for the whole season. We know it was either Achilles or ACL, I forgot. Maybe ACL. But we know how serious those are, right? So it's like if you're getting 50% of an already minimum kind of player, it's not ideal. And I think like people want I'll just kind of remind people like everyone thinks this sounds cool until you realize what if he's actually worse than Gabe Vincent, who you already had. And so the big win there wouldn't be him stepping in for Gabe. It's the contract and being able to use Gabe's contract in the trade. So I like it. I think he's a good player. He reminds me of Shake Milton a lot, not just because of their names, but I used to get them confused. I think both were on Philadelphia at some point, both were on Brooklyn at some point, and maybe there are more teams. But yeah, as V7 said, he's obviously on the Nets now. That's number one. Second thing, the main thing going on with the Lakers today is that Luka. A lot of people are saying Luka is looking a lot better since the season ended. A lot of people are saying he lost weight. I know I got a video. For those in here who know me, I used to get a lot of bangers on Twitter, but recently it's been really dead. Aside from, oh, they liked my tweet. Thanks, Mal. This video right here, I said he seemingly lost 20 to 30 pounds. I was probably lying. That was a bit of an exaggeration, obviously, but he does look good. Like, Allan, a lot of people commented just because I saw so many like on my post here, and they're like, he looks the exact same. No, he doesn't. How does he look the exact same? He literally
He's not.
he looks far skinnier. I don't understand that. His face, his arms. It's not like so yeah, I don't understand that conversation. Do you think Luka will come into the season, looking even better than this? And my second kind of follow up to that for you is a lot of Mavs fans said that yes, he does lose weight in the offseason a lot, but when he comes back and he's in America, like during the season, he like gains a lot of weight. And that's kind of how the cycle goes. Do you think that is gonna be a factor here?
Yeah, I think it's possible that he will fall into that territory of gaining weight, as people say. But I think one of the key differences is that he's with LeBron James, and we know LeBron James is a guy who spends over $1 million on his body to stay healthy. If you have a guy like that motivating you and definitely going to keep him in check, like we know that LeBron James kept 80 in check in a way. So I imagine he'll keep Luka in check. Per Google, he weighs around 230. Maybe here he looks maybe 215, maybe 220 in that range. But I think the sweet spot would be like 225, like in the middle would be ideal for Luka Doncic. If he does gain more weight, I would like to see more muscle. I think that's something that everybody would say: gain more muscle, be more stronger, attacking the paint more, using his weight size. And I just think that with LeBron James, he's going to be in a better position than last year. And also, he was come off an injury. He missed like
Yeah.
almost like a month or something. So it's like now
Yeah.
he has a full off season.
Yeah, I think it was over a month. Like I'm with you, and the LeBron thing is true, but also another factor. When he was on the Mavs, it was his team, and he probably felt so comfortable. Like they're building around me, they'll do whatever I want, and he's not high maintenance. I'm not saying that, but I think that allowed him to have more leeway into like do whatever you want with your body. until it didn't. And he realized, oh shit, Nico was paying attention to that, or whoever it was paying attention to that the whole time, which thank God they did because it saved our franchise 1,000%. But now with LeBron, as you mentioned, when you're on a LeBron James team, clearly you're never going to be the leader of the team. Luka is not the leader of the team. Now, he's the best player on the team. He was the best player on the team in the playoffs, despite like the sickness and kind of some injuries or whatever the case was. He was the best player in the regular season. LeBron was far more consistent. LeBron did his thing every night for sure, but Luka is more talented and LeBron knows that. With AD, in my opinion, we don't have to get into the Mark argument, but AD, I never saw AD as better than LeBron because even though he was better than LeBron for like 40% of the games, I felt like there were about 60% where he wasn't better. And when push came to shove at certain key moments, it was always LeBron. It was never AD. And I saw that for 5 years or 4 years, whatever it was. This guy, there's no doubt he's better than LeBron right now. But my point is it's LeBron's team, and if LeBron says you got to look like this, you got to be in this shape, he'll do it. And also JJ is enough of a like they always describe him this year as a psychopath to be like, yeah, you have to do this. Otherwise, I'm gonna not bench you, but kind of like he'll make things a little more difficult for Luka and find kind of unique, maybe more negative ways to motivate him. And when JJ talked about like getting the roster in championship shape, like right after the season, like I see him taking this very seriously next to JJ and LeBron. And I don't think it'll be something we talk about one day soon. Like it made a lot of sense to talk about it coming off the trade and coming off that injury he had. And this year, maybe he looks slower. But last season, he was second in MVP, averaging, what was it, 34 points per game about? Like, we're not going to be talking about his weight, in my opinion. Starting, midway through next year. Hopefully the rest of the time. Hopefully nothing happens. But yeah, that situation is always funny, causes a lot of controversy. I just saw House of Highlights DM me about this post. I saw it hours too late. They were like, "Do you own this video? Can we post it?" Like that whole message about them posting it. And I was like, I do not own this video, man, but you could do whatever you want. House of Highlights admin. What was the other thing I was gonna
Yeah,
pull up?
I think I'll also mention as well, like at least one part of the conversation, like I would kind of compare it to like the Jimmy Butler situation, how Jimmy Butler was sort of like not to say a clown, but like kind of sort of like a reckless player who he felt like it was his team, this and that. In Miami, then once he got traded to Golden State, he was with Stephen Curry. He started to shapen up, get his body right, get into that right, like say, mindset. I think the same thing with Luka Doncic. Like how you're talking about how like not to say he was entitled to when he was on the Mavericks team, but it was his team. Now he's with a veteran LeBron James. He knows that hey, I am going to be great and be one of the main players on this team, but still I have to fall back to the leader, aka LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, aka Stephen Curry. So I think that it's a good situation. It's just that the Lakers have to build on this foundation. If they allow this foundation to crumble once LeBron does retire or eventually slows down, I think that that's going to be an issue that Lakers start to this offseason. And if they mess it up, then it's going to have ripple effects.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the other thing with Luka is not often do I say the Lakers are a perfect situation for a player, but with him, you almost think they are because when he was coming in that shape, the accountability that you're gonna have on you when you're a Laker is so different that this is where he can get in shape. This is where he can be a pro. And this is where his mentality can change from leading a small market to leading the biggest fan base in basketball by far, especially internationally. I was just in France, like I said, I walked around and I see Luka jerseys and LeBron jerseys, right? Like literally on the streets. And you don't see that. Like you'll see the Wembanyama ones, which I definitely did, and that makes sense, but you don't see a specific team besides the Lakers, and they're everywhere. And so for Luka to be a international player who's a top 5 player, which you kind of have to be like this clear leader of the Lakers, like a LeBron when he got here or Kobe, guys like that, Shaq, obviously. it just kind of aligned perfectly where it was like, this is going to be the best fit for Luka. But the question is, are they going to do what they have to do now with LeBron? And I think that's what a lot of people, that's a bigger conversation. That's what a lot of people, I think, Allan, have been so curious about is what are we going to do with LeBron? We suck with these LeBron teams the last 4 years. Are they going to get this person and this person? But you don't think about as much, you know, it's an impatient fan base too. And if you look at it through just the lens of Luka, it's pretty optimistic for the next decade when you look at it at that lens. The thing is just a lot of people in the fan base, not saying this is wrong, but are LeBron fans, so they're trying to figure out, oh, are we going to win next year? Are we going to win like this year that just happened? And I get that. But with Luka, it looks like it's going to be optimistic for a long time. One of the ways that it will be great with Luka is to get him a pick and roll partner at center who can block shots and rebound, which brings us to this next point right here. Playoff LAL, which they're doing a great job. I saw it's ran by LAL Muse and Kaden now. But Mal built this from the ground up. Great, one of the best Laker accounts on Twitter. I think it's honestly getting there, and they've just done a great job. But they posted which centers would you give up a first for? So Allan, which centers would you give up a first for, and is there anyone you would add to the list?
I think among these the people on this list, I'd say Jared Allen would be my number one guy. I know that we all have been around the Nick Claxton. I saw some reports, or I forgot like who exactly, but talk about how like Nick Claxton is still a young guy. He's not the greatest defender, maybe I think they're talking about, but like he's gonna bring the energy. But I think that if we want a veteran piece, we have to go for Jared Allen. I saw people for vouching. Shout out to Klutch 23, aka Mark, talking about Goga Biazzi. He kind of replied to I forgot who replied to that.
Yes.
It's about
Yeah.
Goga. And was it? I think it was like Tim. I don't know Tim. Yeah, Tim underscore NBA talked about how Goga was like one of the leaders. Comes to click is Craig. Yeah.
This dude, Mark, hold on. Allan, you do realize that and I don't know if you were there for this one. I was on a space with Mark about 3 weeks ago, a month ago. Had no idea who Goga was.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. He had no idea who that was.
Fair enough. Yeah, but yeah, I think like Goga was like top 5 or top 6 when it comes to like defense at the rim. I think that he'd be a guy to go for. He'd be a mid piece. He'd be like a JaVale McGee, like Dwight Howard type in that he's not the flashy name, but he can be impactful on this Lakers team. I would say, like was it? He had a good game versus us like not too long ago. If check his stats versus us. So it's like Goga is a good player. We even talked to him. We talked about him when he was in Indiana for a bit. Like he could potentially go to the Lakers. So I think Goga is a good player. I'd value over like a Nick Claxton. Like I said, I'm valuing the mid slash tier cheaper options than a Nick Claxton. I feel like Claxton, you have to give up Austin Reeves or give up some other stuff to make sure the Brooklyn Nets feel like they have a secure deal. I feel like with the Cavs is like they may want to go fully with Evan Mobley, and that they probably want the best available deal, not the right deal, but the best available deal. And I think that it makes sense for Lakers to go over Allen over Claxton.
Oh no, for sure I agree about Allan. But Claxton is way more realistic, and I think that's where it came from. It's like Sean Marks is good friends with Rob Pelinka, and now we've seen that multiple times. Like taking D'Lo for DFS is no small feat, and that's why like sometimes I do tell people Rob's a good GM, not because of the Luka trade, which clearly was handed to him. I don't know. We don't know what was going on with that still. Let's be honest. But the DFS trade was pretty elite, man. I think it ended up being what, like 2 seconds in D'Lo. That's pretty crazy. Like D'Lo has negative value, for being honest. Even on an expiring, there's no team that has to take D'Lo. It was a favor. It was doing a favor, was what it was. So when I look at obviously this list is interesting. Two of them are here who we could actually get with Goga and Jared Allen. We just talked about. What's up, Holden? Welcome back. I think there's two different conversations here. There's a center who's worth a first round pick conversation, and there's the backup center conversation. That has to be cleared up right away. If you get Goga, I would love him. I watched Magic games. I saw him. In fact, I actually watched Pacers games and saw him there too, which people don't even remember him being there. It was a few years ago, where he got drafted. But that is a backup center. So for example, if Rob comes through this summer, Allan, and gets us Goga, everyone's going to be happy until you get to the end of the summer and you realize, oh shit, he didn't get another center. He didn't get Claxton. He didn't get Allan. He didn't get a starting center per se. And his plan was to start Goga and then have Hayes off the bench. And the Hayes thing is ridiculous. The Hayes thing is one of the stupidest situations. I don't know if it was just all of us Lakers fans trying to be delusional, but when people started bringing up like those Jackson Hayes stats and like the shit he was doing in March, I don't know how I can even find it, but
A lot of
it was
propaganda.
something like,
A lot of propaganda.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Dude, it's Jackson Hayes. It doesn't take a genius to figure out Jackson Hayes. This is a guy who every fan wanted off the team for 1.5 years until we got Luka and he was the only center and no AD, obviously. And everyone's like, oh shit, he's really good. No, Luka made him look better than he was. LeBron made him look better than he was. He has, in my opinion, watching the games, I think he has zero defensive instinct, despite that stat in March that like weirdly suggested he was the best rim protector for 2 weeks or whatever it was. I think he's a horrible defender. I think he actually has bad hands. I think he has bad touch around the rim. And this is like the stuff he's known for. I'll give him props on one thing. Like this video is actually a great, oh shoot, I don't want to do full screen, but a great representation. Like he is one of, on this, he does like a, there you go. You can kind of see it. He does like an East Bay in game. He's one of the most athletic centers I've ever seen. And that was at Texas. That was with, who's his first team? The Pelicans at Summer League. I remember seeing some of those dunks. It was the Pelicans when it, everything. Athletic as hell. But he's honestly horrible. And like here, you look at this. This just came up. All I typed in was Jackson Hayes March. I don't know why this came up. 2019. Like this is Summer League. He had 28 minutes. But in the NBA, yeah, Summer League debut, 28 points. In the NBA, he's been horrible. This was probably his best game for us right here. I think it was 19 and 10. This dude is not good at basketball. It's like putting the worst center possible and you get lucky one time. And the conversation, like I was saying, the delusion, you don't want this dude even on the team in an ideal world. So that's why when I talk about Goga, that's the type of guy you want off the bench. The Thunder can, I know they start him sometimes. The Thunder can do Hardenstein off the bench. The Knicks definitely do Mitchell Robinson off the bench, and he's a huge difference maker, whatever you want to say, despite the free throws. So I just feel like if we're a real team, we would have a real starting center and a real backup center. The first round picks, to like wrap that up, the first round picks thing, I don't know. Oh, that was a playoff LAL graphic. I don't know. Were you saying the Nets would need Reeves and a first for Claxton? Because I don't know if that's true. Is that what you think? They value him?
Yeah,
You think that is? Okay.
I think probably the Rui Gabe Vincent deal probably because they have a couple of picks in the first round that they can go with a big. Danny Wolf could be one of those bigs who they may go for. But yeah, I think that like a Rui Hachimura or Gabe Vincent would probably be in that position. Maybe one of the two for Nick Claxton.
Yeah, I think like Rui, Vincent. I think Rui and Vincent math gets you Claxton. I think that's something a lot of people have talked about. Something like that. Just give Connect for anything. I don't care. He's a good player, but this is like Connect should be worth a first. He was just a first, and he's an above average player for a first round draft pick, especially mid first. So he should be worth a first. So if you trade Connect, make sure that that counts as one of the first in the deal. Because if you were trading for Mark Williams with Connect, that means you traded a first Connect, so 2 firsts in my math, plus like what, 2 swaps or 1 swap, whatever it was. And then you start to realize, yeah, that is a lot for Mark Williams. However, if they got Mark Williams this year, we all know we would have been far better off, you can say. To get into the next thing, we'll all move on with our time. You've mentioned Danny Wolf now once or twice. I did. Um, Look, he's a great player. I'll tell you, I follow the draft kind of similar to how you do, though. One guy I really like, I don't know if you watch him, is like the Six Rings of Steel guy, the guy Matt on YouTube. And he does like mock drafts every day. It's like SROS, SROS. And every mock I've seen from every kind of outlet, ESPN, Athletic, Bleacher Report, everything, they all have the Thunder taking Danny Wolf. And I should probably pull up
Yeah.
just so we get a sense
I
of
also
the
mentioned
picks.
Earl on last week's podcast how Danny Wolf would be a good backup for OKC, and that playing behind Chet or playing behind Isaiah Hartenstein, obviously another 7-footer with them would be great for them. And yeah, I think he would fit well with them, in my opinion. He'd be a steal.
So this one right here isn't a mock draft per se. Well, it just shows the order. And it's kind of like their own ranking of prospects. It's not like who would take who on this one, but I just wanted to like get the order pulled up. But yeah, so this is the 15th pick we're talking about, right? Or actually if they feel it could be 24. What have you seen
It'd be
more?
near 23. He'd be near
24.
like the
Okay.
20s, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He'd be a 20.
So he's kind of mocked around here, but I never have seen him fall past here. On this one, he is. On this one, he is. I'll say that. But this is just their rankings. Again, fit wise, OKC at 24 makes all the sense in the world, especially because he's ready to play in the NBA. And the fit in that offensive system people keep talking about is perfect. So my thing for you is like, it's hard for me to think about the Lakers moving up to draft him when I know my team doesn't move up to get first. That's the last thing we've done in the LeBron era. And I'm pretty sure, like, can you name a time that we had a second and moved up to get a first? No, but you and I both know very well that something they've done about 10 times is take like 50 something and just give it to someone else up here, let's say like 38, 40, and you give them like cash, and then you're like way higher up here. And well, here's a name right here at 40 that I like this guy a lot. He was also at the Klutch Pro Day. And I think you said something about him recently too. Is there anything you can tell us about him?
Yeah. I put on tweet. I talked about how he's similar to Lakers Marc Gasol, and that may be some pushback. I did get 40 likes on it, so people kind of agree with me, even like the Chinese viewers who I think know him more than me. But yeah, I think Hassan Yang is very much a great player. I don't think he's a first round pick, in my opinion. Some people are playing in the first round area. I think he's near the 40s area. He could maybe even be higher. That's just because I think he's still a raw prospect. I think he's a prospect where defensively you can't fully rely on him. He should be a third option going back and forth between the G League and / NBA. Like I said, if we were to go to Lakers, let's say we trade up to like the 40s area, we have to sign a veteran big, Clint Capella, Al Horford, Steven Adams, whoever, because he cannot be the second option. I think that his court vision is great. He has some good energy. His foot speed isn't the greatest. So, like I said, he's similar to Lakers Marc Gasol in that he is a big guy who still iffy on defense, but has great court vision, can find the ball, can find a player. If you throw him a ball at the top of the key and have a couple cutters, LeBron James, Rui, Mando, whoever, he can find him for an easy layup. So I'm really excited about his potential, but unsure about him as a prospect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. That's really helpful. So he's one of the biggest risers, and early in the year he wasn't on mock drafts actually at all. I remember seeing.
I think he was, but it was like the 50s area.
Oh, in the
There's a
50s.
difference.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, so he was down here. My bad. And he's on this one, they put him on the big board at least at 40 now. But as Allan mentioned, some people have even talked about like first round, and a lot of that is hype from like the NBA draft combine, and then also like the Klutch Pro Day that we were just looking at with Danny Wolf, which of course happens at the Lakers facility. No surprise there every year. And AD was there, Nico Harrison was there, Rob, obviously, and more and more and more. And it's just kind of a funny scene, like that Klutch world that's intertwined with the Lakers. You brought up a really good point, though, as we move on in this draft topic. If you're the Lakers and all you have is 55, whether you stay at 55 or trade up to, let's say, the 30s or 40s range, you're not taking someone unless you think they can help you that year. That's where we're at. This is like probably LeBron's retirement year, in my opinion. You want to go, you want to make a deep run. You want to be way better than this year. And as you just mentioned with Yang, if he's a third string center, maybe you get that at 55, but you don't trade up to get a third string center because, like you said, they're going to have to get two centers besides him. And that's so they just wasted their one opportunity to kind of get a free player through the draft on a third string, but they would still have to go sign Steven Adams and trade for Nick Claxton or whatever the case is. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If they feel like they can get a backup center in this draft, then yes, maybe they'll trade up. But who would that be? It kind of is going to depend who falls to the second round. It's separated by days now, right? The second round's on day 2, I think, still.
Probably. I think so, yeah.
They changed that to that last year. So they'll kind of have a really good sense and time to prepare, is my point, of who's going to be there. I do see a couple big guys here, like Kalkbrenner is someone who we're probably going to talk about. Danny, obviously, I said probably first round. Yannick Konen, I've never heard of that guy. And then,
let me cook with that one because I was talking about it last week with Earl.
oh, really?
Yannick Cohen,
Okay, bet.
let me cook with this guy.
Let's go.
Yannick Cohen, I talked about with Earl, and we talk about Jackson Hayes, how he stinks defensive liability. That's not Yannick Cohen. He's 2 years younger than Yannick. He's 20. You can see right there, 22 years old, 2 years younger than Jackson Hayes. I highly recommend checking out his tape, his combine work, and also like the tape from college. He's super athletic, had a couple putback dunks, and he's definitely a good role man. Definitely a good lob man. I would like him with Luka Doncic, and just like he has the ability to be in that range of like Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively with Luka Doncic. I think. Now, is he there right now? I don't think so. I think that, like I said, he has to develop per se. Like I said, there's a reason why he's in the second round. But yeah, like I said, his box season was like 2.3, I think, 2.3 blocks from Basketball Reference.
Yeah, let me go back. 2.3 and then 2.1
so like
the year before.
That's very good when it comes to like a center playing out of college. Was it Kalkbrenner had 2.7 blocks last year? As was like a fourth or fifth year senior. He was like 0.4 blocks below, and he only played 3 seasons. That's great in my opinion. Yannick Cohen is a really good player. I think that if teams value him very high and he does very good in workouts, he'd be an option for the Lakers trade up with that 55th pick and cash consideration. I think that he's a good player that he would work well with the Lakers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
He's one of my guys. I'll say that.
This is one guy who I haven't heard of, and I thought I've heard of a lot of them, but maybe a lot more. Wait, where'd the NBA draft go? Oh, it was this one? How do you go back? Anyway, I'm gonna look into that. Yannick Conan, everyone. That does sound interesting. And he was what, a 7-footer, right? Where'd he go? 7'1". 7'1", 245. I like that a lot. I'll tell you some names that have been mocked around us, and none of them are centers. None of them are centers. I've seen Kobe Brea a billion times, but I've also seen that Kobe Brea, like the Clippers, to this Clippers pick, I've seen this a lot, actually. I've seen Mohamed Diarra, who's like, he's not a big, he's more of a wing. Bryce Williams, yes, obviously seen a couple times. He's a junior. And then Sion James I've seen from Duke, who we got to watch at the end of the season, at least there.
Amari Williams as well.
Amari Williams.
Kentucky, yeah. He's been like a main target.
Is a center. Okay,
among Laker
he's
fans as well. Like Laker fans are starting to turn up on him.
oh
For
really? Okay, so that's another guy I
was it like
haven't heard
I
of.
think Bleach Report after the combine they posted their mock draft and he was selected by the Lakers and a ton of aggregators and Laker fans started to learn about him more.
Oh,
But yeah,
nice.
for me,
Yeah,
I kind of found him during the process. I'll say that.
yeah. I haven't heard of him still. I don't think I watched a lot of Kentucky this year, at all. But Cam Jones, yeah, I've seen Cam Jones around here in that range. Don't know why the Lakers would get a point guard. What would it be? And probably that's an automatic third stringer too if you're drafting a point guard. Um, well, plus Reeves, who basically is a point guard. So yeah, as you can see, there's not a lot of centers in that range. Of course, you never know how things are going to go, and this is just one big board. With everything you've seen so far, and how far are we from the draft? Less than a month, right? Isn't it like mid June?
Yeah, I'm
And
about a month away.
yeah, let's see. It was oh no. Oh, we're literally a month away. Perfect. Literally a month away. So a month away from the draft. Can you give me kind of your top 3 if the Lakers stay at this pick?
Yeah, so top three projected at 55. Number one would be Amari Williams out of Kentucky. I think that the mock drafts are correct in that he'd be a ideal guy for Lakers. 7 foot, has good court vision, passability, good rebounder, and I think that he'd fit well under the Lakers system. So that's JJ Redick. Next one guys would be he could go higher, but maybe he could fall. Would be Jameer Watkins out of Florida State. I'm very much high on him. A couple Laker reporters put me onto him. I watched the highlights. He had an excellent day too. He got 5 steals in that game. Scored 23 points. Very athletic. I think that he'd be a solid replacement for Jared Vanderbilt if he were to package him in a deal, and he'd be an excellent wing. Another guy like I mentioned, Yannick, if he does drop, said for this mock draft, it has him in the 38-40 range, but he could go lower because he's a senior. He's a bit older, 22. Doesn't have the offensive skill that probably most teams would want him to have, but very good defense, lob threat. He could be in that 50 range. Um, a guy who I'm looking at as well is like these to replace Jameer and Yannick. Like Tamar Bates out of Missouri is a guy I like. I highly check out his interview. He's a big Lakers fan as well.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, no, yeah. I saw his interview like a couple days ago. Big Lakers fan. He kind of joked around like he was like Lamar Odom because he's a lefty, and like how one of his brothers was like Kobe or like something in that range. So yeah, very much a good wing prospect. He kind of said that he views himself like a Norman sorry, a Norman Powell, like Devin Vassell. You kind of be like a Malik Beasley 3-and-D. So like those guys I'm looking at for this draft has Bryce Williams. Definitely a guy I look at 55, go-to scorer, and he scored around was it like 20.4 points a game, and the previous season he averaged 13.4, and he led his team to a college title. We could say that is what created this season. So um, I'll mostly summarize all that. I would say at 55, you're most likely going to get like a senior or like an older junior for at 55 because the Lakers are not going to find any young prospects. This draft is loaded with a ton of seniors, guys who could potentially return. But mostly you're going to expect like a 22, maybe 23-year-old senior at 55. To summarize
Yeah,
that.
and I that is really helpful. I think everyone would appreciate that, all Lakers fans, because a lot of Lakers fans aren't tapped in to the draft, especially in a year where it's like you have only 55 and no first. But many years I've found that Lakers fans don't watch college basketball as much as some of the other fan bases, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously at the top, it's an insane draft. In your opinion, like, is this a good year for the bottom of the second? When you compare it to the last years, would it be okay for the Lakers to stay here? This kind of 50 to 60 range.
I would say yes. Compared to last year was a heavy rotation piece type of draft. There wasn't, like I said, too many talented players. That there wasn't no Cooper Flag. There wasn't Dylan Harper. There wasn't like the big flashy names like everyone mentioned last season. It was a good draft, but it wasn't any standout second guys. If you check back from a year ago, from before, none of the second round guys very much stood out this season. So this season, I think that there will be a ton of rotation guys who can step up, and 55 will be a good spot for Lakers compared to previous years. If they had 55, this 55 pick last year, I would be not too happy about it. Like I said, they drafted Bronny James, and if you look at some of those names, Quinn Post was good, Antoine Watson was non-elite, like Kevin McCarr wasn't nothing. Cam Spencer, we know was he on Golden State or was he on the Grizzlies? Right?
No, he was on the Grizzlies, Cam Spencer.
Yeah,
Pat
yeah,
Spencer's on Golden State, though, his
yeah,
brother.
yeah. He played some minutes, and everybody else wasn't like too much of a factor besides like Sneed and like Sneed and Christie. So like the second
Oh,
round,
Shed. Yeah.
yeah. So like the second round wasn't that good. Like Jalen Wells out of their third night on the Grizzlies was like the main focus of the second round. But compared to this year's draft, there's a ton of second round picks who will be better and probably play better than last year's second round.
So last year, if you had a second, and by the way, I didn't think the Lakers would trade up because of the Bronny situation, but I probably even told you guys that I wanted them to because I always want them to. I always feel like if you have a second, just trade way higher and spend the money that doesn't count against what's it called? All those new rules they put in place financially. And then also it's pretty easy to like sign and keep a second round pick for 4 years at least. So I'm always a fan of trading up, in my opinion. And this is the range last year that it would have been. I mean, this is pretty impressive right here. Even 1 year out. I think you would agree. Mogbo had a great year on the Raptors. Filipowski had a great year on the Jazz. Obviously, really high second round picks, but I love Tyler Smith. I don't think he played too much for the Bucks, but I think he's good.
Yeah.
Knicks got Tyler Kolek. Pacers got Johnny Furphy right there. This guy's irrelevant. I don't know if he stayed overseas or what. Juan
Yeah,
Nunez.
I think he did too.
I remember him being like a big name last year, kind of for like second
Yeah,
round. But Clintman, I really like on the Pistons. Don't think he played a lot, but still. AJ Mitchell, amazing before he got injured for the Thunder. Jalen Wells.
Yeah, solid summer league.
Yeah, Jalen Wells.
Yeah.
Oso Iguodala. My point is, like, this was kind of amazing last year. Like, last year gets a lot of hate, but 30 to 40 was really good. My thing is, like, when you look at the bottom, like you were kind of saying, like 50 to 58 it was last year, is kind of horrible. Like, no offense to Bronny, but like you compare that to this year, a lot of these guys were actually like 20 points per game in college, or 10 and 10 senior with 2 blocks, or whatever the case is. So a lot of these guys were really good. Like Cam Jones is like a star for college. Kobe Brea probably has so much potential if you think about it. Like this range is very different this year.
Yeah.
Zion James, a lot of people really liked that guy when he was at Duke next to Flag and all them this year. So I think it'll be interesting. However, again, I'm a huge fan of trading up. And for me, it's hard at some of the spots, but I'm trying to get into 30 and 40. And the way you do it, to clarify, we talked about the financials. The way it kind of works, though, is that some of these teams are going to have 4 draft picks in one draft, maybe 2 firsts, 2 seconds, right? A team like Brooklyn. Brooklyn doesn't need. Let me see if they had another one down here. I don't think so. But Brooklyn doesn't need this pick. San
Brooklyn has
Antonio
like 3
doesn't
first
need
rounders, I
this.
think.
Yeah, I think they have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, 4 first rounders.
Like 4. And you know what? That's fantastic for Brooklyn this year. Normally, I would say 4 is too much. No, they don't have enough talent and potential on their team. 4 is good. Maybe they'll keep them. They'll probably trade 1. If I had to guess, they'll have like 3 picks. Trade 1. But yeah, then you get here. Okay, Brooklyn, after selecting 4 players first round, Allan, Did they need to select 36 Ryan Kalkbrenner? No. But Rob Pelinka has shown an ability to trade for nothing into this exact range. And so now we're having a very different conversation when you can get the Yannick guy you talked about, Hansen Yang, who has potential, Ryan Kalkbrenner's 7'2", one of the best college centers last year. You're having a very different conversation than the names down here. In this draft and in the last one in 24 that we looked at. So my question to you is, if the Lakers can trade to let's say Charlotte has two right here, I guess, or maybe one of them's traded. Let's just say Brooklyn. Let's say 36. Sean Marks, Rob Pelinka, great relationship. Maybe it's even in, a month from now, who knows? Maybe it's in a Claxton deal. Maybe it's something else smaller. You don't know. If the Lakers get this pick and they actually want to use it on someone who's ready and can be in the rotation, so I'm talking about not a starter probably, but a clear bench player. Who's your top three in this situation now, like mid-30s? And then we'll kind of wrap it up. Oh, wait, you're muted right now. You're good.
Yeah, I do have to find out the mock draft for that one again. So let me check on that. But at least among the available names right there, like I said, Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Kaden, I think that he's definitely a second option for the Lakers compared to Hassan Yang. Ryan Brenner could get some minutes. I think that he could fit well like a Boston Celtics team, like I said, OKC. There's many teams that Kalkbrenner could be very much influential on. I think he'd be number one for Lakers in terms of their needs. Exciting.
And I'm also gonna go back to a better mock draft because that one, I just don't
for now
think
a little
that was
shaky, so
accurate.
it's hard for me.
Yeah, they had like Colin Murray Boyles like in that range. I was like, nah, I think the guy's a lot higher.
For this one's better, honestly.
Here you go. Like Cedric Howard right here is going to that
Cedric
pick.
Howard.
Like, that's someone who people have been like extremely high on that guy recently. But yeah, this one's a little more accurate. So here, you can look at this and you can take anyone who you think will actually be there at 36. You talked about Kalkbrenner, but just wondering like if there's two other names. Doesn't have to be a center.
So yeah, Drake Powell out of North Carolina, shooting guard. People view him as a good wing guy. I think that he's definitely be an option for the Lakers. Another guy, if you can go back.
Yep.
For a minute. Yeah. Number 45 right there, Alex Condon out of Florida University. Right there. Yeah, he's a 7-footer, power forward, center. He kind of stepped in between going back to college, staying in the NBA. Definitely a good defensive guy. Uses his length very well. Uses his size, and he's not going to be like a good post guy. I don't think that you can just give him the ball in the post, but as the roller, as a guy who can do a pick and pop, maybe a couple pick and rolls with Luka Doncic, LeBron James, I like him within that 40 range if the Lakers were to get up there. I think that he's still a developmental piece, but he's a very good developmental piece that you could trust to be a second option at center.
Yeah, I mean this draft is a lot more helpful to me. Like this is another guy I've heard about. Like this guy Roko Zakarski, who's 7'4". He wasn't even. I didn't even see him on the other one. Tyrese Proctor was around that range that we talked about. Vlad Golden is right here on this range.
Yeah,
that's a name we haven't talked about, and maybe we should. They have the Lakers taking him. I've also seen him undrafted. I also watched him many times. Like this is a guy who I actually watched play. This last year at Michigan. The Lakers have an interesting history with Michigan, and I think we've said that in the past. When we were doing our show last year, I was probably in Michigan, and we're talking about this, but it's weird because Rob went to Michigan. Rob Pelinka, again, 6-man on the Fab 5 team, loves guys from the Big Ten, you can say, takes Mo Wagner immediately kind of when he got this job, which in hindsight, probably a very good pick. It was like 25, I want to say. So it was like lower down. But look, he ended up really good despite that injury this year, especially off the bench. That was probably a pretty good pick. But then you get Max Christie, amazing pick. Early second, like we said, traded up. Big Ten also. That's why I bring it up. And then you get Jalen Hood-Schifino, who's also Big Ten Indiana guy, who is one of the worst picks in history, in my opinion. If you look around, obviously it's not high stakes. It's not like Anthony Bennett #1, but like given who was around Schifino, we all know. We're all here. We understand Schifino. So I view it as like a weird history of like, do you immediately go right back to another Big Ten guy who's, and a lot of times when Rob does this, it's a senior, an older guy like Mo was at the time. Maybe he was a junior, but an older guy also from Michigan. I mean, this is a guy who I don't remember him averaging 21. Apparently, he averaged 21.7 points per game. 1.8 blocks, and he's 7'1", but he's
I
essentially
think that could
7'2".
be like the per 40 percentage.
Oh,
Because
that's
sometimes
per
these are
40.
per
Okay, that
40.
makes a lot more
Probably.
sense. Yeah, that would make a
Yeah.
lot. Oh, per
Yeah,
36.
per
Okay.
36. So yeah.
Okay, oh, here, so I'll change it then per game. There you go. I was about to say he didn't average that. There you go, 16.6. Still pretty good. 1.4 blocks, whatever. What do you think about Vlad Golden at that spot there?
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention Eric Dixon out of Villanova. I kind of put out a tweet that he's sort of like Julius Randle. In that way, he has like archetype. Definitely a big power forward. Shout out to Kaden, like I mentioned in the previous podcast. He wants a player to go downhill. That's a player who can go downhill. He can bully you and drive to the rim, create his own shot. Good pick and pop guy, good passer. He'd be a really, really good 55 option. I'll say that. No.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, because
going to Black Golden, this is my unfiltered opinion. I also talked about it in last week's podcast. Like I said, I can't wish you were there, Jake, because I'm about to see some hilarious stuff that I don't say he stinks, but I'm just not a fan of him. I view his hustle, view his athleticism not great. Like I said, I'll talk about it. I was like, he sort of has that Zach Edey type of ordeal for me, in that he's tall, but he doesn't use his tallness as a factor to rebound, be hustle, be a good rim protector, and I'm just not a fan of him. If he's dropped at 55, I'm okay with it. I don't see no issues. Tall center, maybe he could develop, but as a prospect, in my opinion, there's better people, better prospects than him, in my opinion, and he can go undrafted or be a two-way contract.
And he probably should and will be a undrafted guy. Two-way contract feels extremely fair. Colin Castleton or whatever was a two-way contract. He might have been better in college. Yeah, I mean, I'm right with you. And again, I went to Michigan. I probably say that too much. Allan knows. But I went to Michigan twice over, undergrad and grad school. I'm not a fan of Michigan guys in the draft. Like, I see this big difference even when I watched them in person. A lot of these guys, like a Jet Howard in person, and a lot of the Kobe Buffkin. There's a big difference between being good in college and being good in the NBA. Everyone can know that, but when you see it in person with certain guys, you just see it. And I just see this guy as a good college center who also kind of pisses the college fan base off. And it's not a good sign when you're in college and you're the starting center and you're making a run, you're one of the best teams, and people are mad at you. Why aren't you using your height? Why aren't you using your size? How did you not rebound that? How did you not finish that? His hands suck. Stuff like that. So to Allan's point, like, yes, the stats look good, and this is a college center, but you don't want to take that guy in the draft. And maybe Danny Wolf will be an exception, because certainly if he fell to the second round, like, yeah, the Lakers should take him. But even Danny, I will say there's going to be a lot of complaints. He can defend, like he gets blocks, he can get steals, but he's also going to get eaten alive. And then Lakers fans will say, why did we trade up for Danny Wolf? Let's say even if it was early in the second, just so he can get eaten alive by Steven Adams when we play the Rockets next year. A situation like that where it's like you don't want the guy on the court. And at the end of the day, it's still a rookie, even if they're a junior or senior or grad year guy. So this is what does matter to me as we kind of close it out. And I think you would kind of agree based on your picks. I want athleticism and strength and size, but I think above all the right word is motor. Because if I see that a guy, especially a center, has an insane motor, then I can trust that that guy will develop into what Luka needs him to be, or LeBron needs him to be, or what the bench unit or JJ needs him to be. I want motor. And the second, priority is if you're over 7 feet, you should be swatting all that shit at the rim. None of this Jackson Hayes defense where you get lucky on a few help side blocks every year and people think you're good at defense. No, like I want you to protect the rim, even against elite starters on that other team. So yeah, obviously, I think everyone would agree if you pick in the second round, you want to go with a center. But I also think, as we talked about earlier, there's a big difference between a third string center and a second string center. Hopefully we can find that guy who can at least have a chance to be that second string backup center for us. Um, I always it always comes back to this, and I'm sure Lakers fans, especially now, talk about it. But the Mavs drafted Derek Lively, and I didn't like what the Mavs did. They tanked those games at the end to keep the top 10 pick that was protected top 10 or whatever. They kept it. They traded down to like 12 and got Lively, and that was like the smartest thing ever. It's not about winning the number one pick. It's where can you find the guys who are actually going to play for you and can be a starter in your league, especially at center. And that's something the Lakers never even tried to do, whatever the situation was. I wish I could just like easily go back in years. I forgot how to do it. But like Dalton Connect fell in your lap. I understand. And then like the Shafino thing, God, who knows? The Max Christie pick made sense. But Lakers fans have been saying now, all right, for 4 or 5 years, you haven't had a center, even if it was just like next to AD kind of center. But the Lakers haven't drafted a center. And I think that's why this all becomes interesting is why do you keep not drafting a center when that's the best way to do it, when that's where the Derek Lively's of the world are? Who aren't even necessarily the number one pick. Like in the chat, Smitty said, let's get Maluaj or whatever. And there he is, 9. Like he's going top 10. That's not, there's no like, you're not getting him. I guess the best you could hope for if you really want him is you trade Austin Reeves to like Toronto and get him. But that's what's going to cost you, like something real. But I do think there's a lot of centers mixed into this who can become real NBA players, at least backups, and that's what we got to go for. Anything else you want to talk about before we close it out?
Yeah, the other thing I did think about like a sort of like a question as well. What are your thoughts on potentially trading Austin Reeves into that first round? Like, talk about like that Brooklyn pick 26, 27. If Danny
Oh,
Wolf is available, or I don't know, Maxime Renaud, I think has
I
Shangoon
like him a
potential.
lot. I
Yeah,
like him a lot.
I recommend checking Maxime Renaud. Like a great player. I think he's arguably maybe the second or third best center in this draft class, in my opinion. But yeah, like we thought on potentially doing that because we kind of saw that in 2017, the Lakers trade D'Angelo Russell, and it was like
Oh, it was
Mozgov for that was like 27 Kuzma and Timothy
Lopez
Brook
and
Lopez. Yeah, so
yeah.
what are your thoughts on that potential scenario? That I don't think they're gonna do that, but like, what if they were to do that?
Yeah, so and I think they did that because they knew they were getting Lonzo. They knew that at number 2. So they also knew they're still rebuilding. As a rebuilding team, you may trade to get that extra first and take a swing on someone like Kyle Kuzma, which I feel like it worked out for us, no matter what you want to say about him now. That was pick, what, 28 or 27, whatever it was. I think what you're saying now makes no sense if you're a Luka LeBron team. That's my thing. I think that makes no sense because you only do that if it's essentially free. Whoever you take, you're taking a chance on. You don't know if they're going to be in the rotation. You're praying for a backup potentially. And I feel like the difference between 30, let's just say like 35 and 27 would never be worth it unless a guy fell. Like you were talking about Danny falling. It'll never be worth like an Austin Reeves. And the D'Lo thing was also to get Brooke Lopez, who I'm sure at the time they really liked, and they thought, okay, next to Lonzo and whoever else is there at the time. I know we got KCP around then. It could work. Um, but they did that because they were in a rebuilding stage. I think we would both agree. And also, like I said, like D'Lo didn't work out. It was a different circumstance. Austin, say what you will, and I'm not the biggest Austin fan, to be honest. I think he's kind of gimmicky. Like, I think he's a regular season guy a lot more than playoffs. And, obviously, we all just saw that again. He should not be getting traded for like the 27th pick. If he did have like a value of a pick to be put at, even in this draft, like, Austin's like pick 4. Like, if you
Uh,
really think it, no,
I
if
thought
you
I thought
really,
it's a little high.
how is VJ Edgecombe worth more than Austin Reeves? I don't think he is. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper off potential are worth more. Fine, VJ, you can argue. I've seen a lot of good VJ stuff, but let's say like they're taking Jeremiah Fears or Trey Johnson. It's like Austin's worth that. And obviously I don't see the Lakers doing that. And I think Austin would only get traded if the Lakers are getting like an elite center or starter, you should say, like someone who can start right off the bat. Not that these guys won't be starters, but someone who is a guaranteed great NBA player, and Austin's part of the package, right? So someone higher than Austin and older probably than Austin. Um, yes, I do think the Lakers should trade Austin though, and that's another conversation.
I'll say Austin. It makes my value. I kind of ram towards like the 19th pick at Brooklyn, number 19. I think that's the highest value I sort of see him being older. He has an expiring contract next year, where at least for the Lakers he can get $42.5 million. I think that's his
Yeah,
value in my opinion. He's worth the 19th pick.
yeah, but you
That'd be
would it that one's tough. Like I get what you're saying. Like yeah, when you look at it that way, but he's literally guaranteed to be better than Jeremiah Fears at least for what, like 2 to 3 years, at least guaranteed to be better. And that's like another way I was kind of looking at it. But yeah, to your point, like, yeah, like a guy like that is a mid first guy because Giannis could be traded for a package centered on Dylan Harper, who's number 2, and Giannis is way, way ahead of Austin Reeves, obviously. Um, but yeah, I think like to close it on the thoughts you were saying, like, and this is a guy who I have seen all his tape. I love this guy. I literally thought we had a chance at him too because I saw him in the mid second round.
Yeah, in the 40s area, he automatically would have been a trade up for me. 55
Yeah,
cash
me
cash
too.
cash considerations. You have to go up to get him.
Oh, me too. I think if you see him still on the board and like even if you're talking about like the
Like
Brooklyn pick we were
36.
talking about or something. Yeah, no, anywhere, honestly. If you see him on the board in front of you, I'm doing it. The problem is it's like now I'm seeing him in a lot of first round mocks, obviously,
Yeah,
and
he's
that
a late
changes
first.
things. He's
He's
a late first guy, so it's changed. And like this guy's super interesting. He's committed to Michigan though, so I don't know what's happening with that.
yeah,
But yeah,
I saw around 60-40 he could go to Michigan. That's what he said.
Yeah. And so like I guess Allan, my final thoughts would be like the other thing is the contracts and how it works with paying a first versus how it works with paying a second. And I know from a lot of what I've seen, like paying a second and those types of non-guaranteed deals you can do or the 4-year thing. Where it gets stretched. Bronny's a very rare case, and that's why people thought it was even more nepotism that they took a 55th pick and like guaranteed it for like 4 years. I think it was, and it was like 9 million or some 11 or whatever it was. The other way of doing it is far better and more team friendly, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't count against like those aprons or whatever too. So my thing is, I would trade to the top of the second as high as you can get. So let's say you call I'm trying to think of a realistic one. You wouldn't even talk to the Celtics. Let's say you call the
Yeah,
Hornets and
sure.
they say no to 33, then I'll ask the Sixers about 35 because they're an older team and they're already going to be getting one young guy up there they got to work with. I ask the Sixers, and if the Sixers say no, I ask the Nets. that's how I would play it as the GM. And I think the sweet spot is right here because I'm liking a lot of these names right here. Like way more than that other mock draft we were looking at or big board or whatever. I like the names around here. And if I can get right here, I feel really good. I guess last thing, not Lakers related. What are your thoughts on Tahad Pettiford? Because I saw you talk about him, and he's been like a big conversation point with the draft.
Yeah, he's still a young guy. Like I said, freshman right there. He could return, but people see him as a late first rounder, and it's very much justified. He had an amazing day one scrimmage. I highly recommend checking those highlights out. He was a standout guy, good scorer, has a good jump shot. Um, Played some really good defense. Drew a couple charges, got a couple steals, got a couple calls with him / against him, and outside, let's say like his floor, or not his floor, his bottom would be Bones Highland. I think like a
Okay.
young guy who's just a good scorer, very talented out of Denver when he was first starting. Now he kind of fell off after, but obviously that's on him and other stuff. So I think that's the same thing with Tahad Pettiford, with him being young, only freshman, he could return. But I'm not gonna say his ceiling, but he could have that same impactful as a like I say, sort of like an Andrew Nemhard. Like he doesn't play like Andrew Nemhard, but being a late first rounder near the 30s, or he could be a first rounder like Andrew Nemhard. I think he has that potential. Definitely a great player who could be a good rotational piece. Plays under a veteran point guard, whoever it is. He does get drafted to, and he's gonna be a good prospect. I'm a fan of him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's some really interesting names in the second round this year, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, for me, I'm hoping the Lakers trade up. For me and Allan, thank you for those who did tune in. We'll save this as a recording, I'm sure. We'll be back tomorrow to do the tier list and kind of some more Quester 18 stuff with Earl. What else is going on? We'll be working on a lot of content this summer. Quests, Playoff LAL, Playoff Sports Network. We're expanding. We're doing new things. Oh, thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
I
Um,
think sorry to interrupt here. I think tomorrow's pod could maybe be with everybody. It
okay.
doesn't have to be three of us. I think that everyone's invited. I'll do like a preview of the
Yeah.
tier list. Yeah,
We'll
let's see.
text we'll text people and see who can make it. Definitely.
Let me get on here.
I just got breaking news from our little text group chat that Mal is having a beer and he is under 21 years of age. Shout out Malcoholic who's illegally drinking a
So
beer.
yeah, it could be blurry. Here, I don't know if you can see it, but yeah,
Yes,
these
yes.
are the players. These are the players that we're gonna tier list.
Wait
Everybody
a
who played
second.
for
Wait
the
a
Lakers
second.
the entire season.
Oh, okay. I just see that was confusing for a second. I'm like, I feel like there's about triple the names here, but that's
Yeah,
that's fun. I like that idea a lot.
yeah.
I'm
So
honestly
yeah, so like
looking
I said, this
forward
is a
to it.
preview. We got S tier, A tier, B, C, D. Limited minutes due to like those players who like fringe players that we don't want to call bad, but like really got minutes bad.
Okay.
And we're having JHS tier. We don't know
JHS tier.
we don't know who's going there, but like I said, I do want this to be a fun stream. Get everybody here, do like a simulcast, like joke around, call a couple players trash, and yeah, we should just have fun. Hopefully, we could do it if everybody's available or something. That's sort of like the go-to plan. I kind of want to do. At least we even talked about before. Yeah, and even how like chattered. Yeah, yeah. I think Jake's having some connection issues.
I just crashed. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Bad time for my computer to crash. I'm back.
But yeah. So like I said, the tentative plan is hopefully like we can get everybody on here, talk some trash about players. I don't know who's gonna be S tier. Maybe it's LeBron James. Maybe some people might feel different about Luka. Maybe Austin. Maybe JJ Redick is the S tier. I don't know, but yeah, I think hopefully if we can get everybody on here, that'd be a great time. And yeah,
Let's do it. I love it, Allan. That's awesome, man. I'm the only thing I'm thinking about is I missed the D'Lo tier, But I think for like full season, I like the JHS tier idea too.
We could have a dual tier. I don't know. This is just like a preview. We could definitely add that.
Either way, either way is good. But yeah, this is going to be a ton of fun. So hopefully we get everyone out here and everyone in the chat can tune in and watch the final tier list of the year. And yeah, that's it. Everyone have a good Memorial Day tomorrow, the unofficial start of summer. That's a ton of fun. I'm out of town, obviously, in Laguna, as I said. I'll be back tomorrow, though. So yeah, appreciate you guys. Allan, thanks so much for talking to me about this. Not a lot of people in Playoff Sports Network, at least so far, like talking about the draft aside from me and Allan. So definitely appreciate you guys coming out. And Allan, thanks for everything you do. Great job on the TikTok, by the way, for Quest and Playoff LAL. Playoff Sports TikTok led by Earl is doing good. The Instagram account's doing great that I've been running. Twitter's been looking great. So everything's going great. Tomorrow, I will say, I'll talk to Kaden about everything we want to do the next few weeks, and everyone here can expect good news and big news soon. So appreciate it. Allan, have a good one, man, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
See you
Peace out.
guys.